Welcome to Worldfitness, guys. On a regular basis, we get a lot of questions and also advice from customers regarding what to look for when choosing a bench and how to know it's a good quality product and it's rated and suited for Australian environment where you can do good quality heavyweight training. To demonstrate that, we have purchased one of the brand that you can purchase online. It's a commonly known brand, however we cannot show this brand due to liability issues, but we have this bench on display at our showroom that addresses are available on our website. The reason we purchased this bench and we assembled it to show the customers and our viewers to see exactly what are the main differences between a cheap knockoff bench that you can purchase off some of the auction websites and compared to a well-known brand that specializes in strength equipment. Now, as you know from our website, Body Iron Australia is a well-known Australian brand that design their product and test their products based on Australian standards and suitable for the Australian market where you can use for heavy-duty use. Now, we have compared this generic brand with a very entry-level basic bench press that you can buy from our website for domestic home use. Now, some of the main differences we will take you through just by looking at the benches set next to each other. You can see the thickness and the stability and the weight distribution of the base of support of these two benches. Now, firstly, the tubing of these benches, if you compare it between the two, it's really thin tubing with very little amount of steel. As you can see, it's a very light bench. You can easily pick it up just to demonstrate how little amount of steel has been used for the frame of this bench. Now, if you come closer, you can notice that all these bolts has been fully tightened. Every single of these bench bolts has been fully tightened. If you see from the top view, there's no gap in between any of this. However, if I just two fingers, I can move this bench. Now imagine you, an adult with roughly about 75 kilo weight and additional few more weights trying to do any kind of strength exercises. Imagine the danger you're putting yourself under and the risk you're taking, especially if you're looking to work out by yourself at home. These might be cheaper options, but it is not worth risking your life just for saving a few bucks. Now, if you compare the welding, if you come here, you can see there's only two-way welding, and the welding itself is very inferior quality, meaning there's not enough weight distribution capability on these benches. If you compare that, you can see there's one single solid piece, and it has four-way welding all the way across with solid steel additional support and 6 bolts for even weight distribution, which gives it really, I'm pretty much going as hard as I can with very little movement on this bench here. Again, if you notice the weight bearing pole, see how thin and skinny that is. If you compare that to this one here, it's almost double the size, and we are looking only a basic entry-level Body Iron Australia strength bench. Next thing, if you notice, this one has a solid tubing for the load bearing of the bar that you're going to be using for your bench press or shoulder press incline presses. Compared to that, this one has a very little thin tubing, again only two-way welding. Just to demonstrate how thin that is, you can easily just bend it, and that's what you're relying on for your safety. If you look at the thickness of the cushioning, this is just basic piece cushioning, barely any support whatsoever. Just to give you a demonstration, you can actually just bend it, and just with light body weight, you can actually break it. Just from the sound. Now, I would be very cautious putting my body weight with some additional weight just for my personal safety. On top of that, add this kind of stability to this bench, and on this here, That's how you compare how stable the bench is. Again, we are comparing a really entry-level basic Body Iron Australia bench. Now, if you compare the thickness of the cushioning with that brand of bench, you can see the thickness is almost 3 times, and it's got really good quality Durafilm inside for good shock absorption as well. Now, if I try to do the same thing with this bench here and holding it, and actually, this is a really strong base of support for your safety. Also, this bench includes a preacher curl attachment for that price that is included. Next thing we can compare is the width of the racking. Now, when you're doing your bench press, you need to have a comfortable width to be able to rack and unrack the bar. As you can see, it fits the most common or the most generic grip width. If I move here, it gets right in the way of racking or unracking the bar. It's neither too close or too wide and makes it really, really uncomfortable and very, very dangerous, especially if you're trying to unrack the bar from outside and your thumb get caught under the bar with the weights, and especially when you're working out by yourself, that can be really, really dangerous. Moving back to this bench here. Now, if you just come around this side, we can show the load bearing mechanism for each of these benches. Lifting the bench here, it's got the grip to sit flush on the load bearing pole to avoid unnecessary movement, and it's got 2 different load bearing poles which gives it a very solid good base of support. Comparing to this here, you can just see the thickness of the thinness of the steel compared to there, and there is no rubber padding for stabilizing the backrest. So if I want to compare it there, you can see you can pretty much just with one hand you can bend the backrest to one side. Now, if you're doing maximal loading or maximal weight training, or even your medium hypertrophy training, and if you're slightly off balance, that can become very dangerous. Second is the load bearing of the base. You can see there's only one little bolt with a plastic attachment right underneath. That's doing all the load bearing, which makes the bench rock back and forward. Going back to this entry-level bench from Body Iron Australia, it has three, one on each side, making it 4 bolts on each side, doing the load bearing with added support, extra thick steel tubing, 2 more bolts holding the back solid frame, and another bolt into the frame, fully stabilizing this frame. Now, as mentioned, this is a generic brand product. This brand is a very well known on a lot of the auction websites. One way to say whether they're specialized in equipment, you'll see this brand also make a lot of kitchenwares, garden tools, as well as fitness equipment or rehab equipment as well. Whereas Body Iron Australia, they specialize in strength and prehab and rehab equipment. They specialize in fitness industry. The most important thing you gotta remember, these brands, because they're not tested for Australian standard, they can claim to be whichever weight rating, and they can put it on the website, they can change their name and move on to a different seller. A lot of these benches, even this particular bench has a weight rating of 500 pounds, meaning almost 220 kilos. Whereas Body Iron Australia has rated this entry-level bench at 180 kilos maximum user weight, which is the correct Australian standard. When I say 180 kilos, it means your body weight as well as the weight you're lifting. Say for an example, 180 kilo weight rating, meaning if you're 80 kilo adult, you have another 100 kilo of weight to use for your weight training. There is no way you can compare these 2 benches and say this one has 500 or almost 220 kilos of weight rating. One way these benches, these cheap knockoff brands claim this excessive weight rating, they can just load the weight for 1 second and just lift it off, and then they can say, this has been rated for 500 pounds because it has been able to hold the weight for 1 second. However, they do not meet the Australian standard. And some of the benches, they also claim to be light commercial benches as well, which is absolutely absurd. Just looking at the review and the quality and the finish of the products, you can see how dangerous it can be if you're looking to purchase something cheap knockoff from this auction website. So next time you're looking to purchase a bench or any kind of strength equipment, firstly, always make sure you're looking at a brand that is well known in making and specializing in fitness equipment. You also need to look at the way the weights are rated. If a really cheap bench is rated for an excessive amount of weight, that is going to be impossible, and it does not comply with the Australian standard. If you want to go and physically visit the stores, you can actually go and inspect the products, such as the key points that we have reviewed, such as the welding, the thickness of the tubing, the weight of the bench, meaning how much steel has been used, as well as the load-bearing mechanisms. Always feel free to check the websites or send an email or call Worldfitness regarding any query you may have about what the ratings mean, but we have a good explanation on our website about what is the difference between domestic, semi-commercial or light commercial, and commercial rating mean. If you have any more questions about these products or any questions regarding fitness equipment rating or comparison, please visit us at www.worldfitness.com.au. Now, one important thing is about the incline of this bench. The incline has to be practical, where your head and shoulder can be in line with the barbell racking to be able to comfortably rack and unrack the bar. Now, this bench allows you to go to incline up to this height, which is common and which is manageable and without any danger. This bench allows you to go incline. As you can see, this is the highest incline point up to here. You can see the headrest has already passed the bar at the moment, which can be very dangerous when you're racking and unracking a heavy bar from here, which is not recommended and does not comply with the safety regulations. Next thing is the actual height of the racking. This one can be racked all the way up here, and it is an adjustable racking in conjunction with the height of the inclination of the backrest, which allows you to test and try to get the perfect comfortable grip, as opposed to this has a fixed height, however very inconvenient and impractical inclination. So you cannot adjust to suit your comfortable level and keep your workout safe.